have the Ayatollah of fantasy rock and roll with us today, Adam Rank. How you doing, Rank?
They look great in person, and I just can't wait till next year we can pack it full of 25,000.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I didn't know it was Ball Guys Day. It was being ranked. I mean, how can you lose?
This is the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast. This is episode 174, presented by the Fantasy Points Media Group. As always, I am joined by Major Caldwell and Tera Roberts, and on today's show, we are going to talk about legal tampering and the NFL free agency calendar, which officially turned the page into 2023. We're not going to get cute with the introduction. We're going to get right into the news and notes. But Major, Tera, how you all doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic-ish. But we'll call it fantastic for the purposes of the show.
I'm good. Is the legal tampering period not the greatest of all time when it comes down to this? Is like the biggest right before the NFL draft kicks into place. I mean, this has got to be it right now, right? We're seeing everything got to go down. We're seeing moves being made. We're seeing things that make sense, and we're seeing things that make absolutely no sense. I'm looking at you, Las Vegas, but before we get into there, let's talk about some things that kind of already happened here as we got to this legally tampering period, starting with the Chicago Bears dealing that number one overall pick to the Carolina Panthers. Not only do they get pick number 9, they get a second round this year, a first round next year, which could be a very high first round pick next year, and a second round pick, I think, in 2025, as well as DJ Moore to pair him with Darnell Mooney, to pair him with Cole Kmet, to give Justin Fields another competent wide receiver. Tera, I'm going to look at you here first.
Hater.
When we go here, Tera, what are we feeling? How are we feeling about Justin Fields heading into 2023 right now?
Oh, I mean, I was already all in on Justin Fields is one of my guys for 2023. And now I feel like he's probably going to be everybody's guy for 2023 because this was fantastic. I mean, the Chicago Bears are just doing everything so right around him, you know, getting him DJ Moore. And then on top of that, they're adding all the pieces around him. It's not just about adding the weapons. They're building the team as a whole, the offensive line, the defense they're bringing up as well. So, I mean, they're just, I love it for them. The trade was fantastic. I love the haul they got back. Getting DJ Moore was huge, massive. Right. And now they've got all this money to spend. They're freewheeling, just, you know, making it rain on everyone, making signing free agents. So I love this. This is, they're going the right direction.
Go figure. Good teams get themselves a good wide receiver to pair him with their young quarterback. Buffalo Bills did this. They got Stephon Diggs for Josh Allen. We saw the Philadelphia Eagles do this with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. We've seen the Baltimore Ravens do this with Lamar Jackson. Wait, they have not done that to help Lamar Jackson at all. My mistake, which is probably the reason, Major, that Lamar Jackson became his own agent here and kind of tweeted a little under the radar tweet that might have got missed on what day? On Monday, Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday the tweet went out. He went down 133, all guaranteed. Who needs an agent? Major, I know you are the biggest proponent of players getting paid. Now, I don't know if this is going to be the contract when it's all said and done. We haven't seen nothing official on it. But if you're Lamar Jackson, how are you feeling? You're one, you're getting paid if this is the case, but B, your team is still not surrounding you with anything to work with.
That's the part I think he really needs to focus on, is put some stipulation in the contract saying that, hey, maybe I will take a little bit of a discount if we are surrounding me with receivers and tight ends and running backs and O-line and whatever else we need, because it seems like they've really been just putting all the work on him. And I think that's a recipe that's not going to work. You know, he's not going to last that long, you know, running the way that he does or has to. No, but if I'm him, you know, being his own agent, doing his thing, like, you know, turn it down and see what they do. Like, and I like how he's playing the media against, or the fans, actually. He's playing the fans against the team. So he's putting the tweets out there, letting people know, like, hey, this is what they offer me, and let people talk about it and kind of see what the buzz is. And he's kind of using that as a negotiation tactic. So I'm all for it, man. I think players should be their own agent. Why should you give 20, maybe 40% of your earnings to someone who's just sitting down making the deal? Like, I don't understand, especially when they have tiers and everything and all this other stuff that the NFL has to make sure players get paid. So,
well, not everyone can be like Aaron Rodgers, where you're the current quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, the current owner of the Chicago Bears, and the current GM of the New York Jets. Tara, I mean, is Aaron Rodgers going to be Broadway bound? And are we loving things in Green Bay?
Yeah, he's definitely Broadway bound. Good luck to the Jets. I wish Aaron nothing but the best.
don't sound like it.
No, I do. It's just like it the laundry list of, I need this, and this. I do believe that actually is happening with him. So that one is just it's a little bit interesting in terms of certain requirements to be traded. But hopefully it all works out for him. I do in fact wish him the best. And I regardless, I think this is going to be a good thing for them. I think that this makes them competitive in the playoffs. I do not think that this makes them a Super Bowl winning team, unfortunately. I just don't really see that in terms of the direction that they can head in the AFC. Again, we look at the two different conferences. If this was the NFC that he was going to and the Jets had this same build, then yeah, I would look at this and say this is a highly competitive team. But I mean, I'm not feeling like this is something that is going to push the Jets right over that tipping point to where they're going to win a Super Bowl. So it'll be interesting to see. For the Packers, yeah, loving things. I mean, I think this is what you need. At some point, you have to move on. Right. And you have to see where Jordan Love is going to be. He's had plenty of time to prep. He has had plenty of time to develop. And now we're going to see quickly whether or not he's someone that can actually be a starting quarterback in the NFL. What I would like to see, hopefully, is that when we're looking at Allen Lazard being added to the Jets, hopefully that means that maybe there's a little kickback that's coming back to the Packers in terms of a receiving weapon, because I would feel a lot more better about Jordan Love and his prospects if he had something other than just Christian Watson. There needs to be something else within that receiving core. So hopefully they're able to put something around him in order to help him succeed. So we'll see how it works out, but I don't feel negatively about either one of the situations.
Would it not be the ultimate troll job by the Green Bay Packers to select another wide receiver in the first round as they trade Aaron Rodgers?
It would. And like, why? And in this year, the irony of that, where there's not a ton of wide receiver one quality options out there. So yeah.
I just find it funny. I mean, I think I seen this on Twitter. Someone kind of talked about the negotiations between Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets as basically Aaron Rodgers. Remember that Ace Ventura scene where he's interrogating the guy and he like takes the dinner fork and he starts scraping it really loud against the knife and they try to get, I want Allen Lazard. No. And then he starts poking his one eye like this, poking it like this. And the guy goes, okay, I give. I'll talk. That's what I feel like Aaron Rodgers is basically, or he's just showing him his feet. I mean, we know Aaron Rodgers has no problem showing people his big toe, so maybe that's the biggest difference maker. Now, a couple trades that are going down here. These will come back a little bit later as we discuss some of these other legal tampering moves, but I put out a tweet a little bit earlier there that basically once Jokobi Meyers signed with the Raiders, that basically meant that Darren Waller and or Hunter Renfrow would be soon dealt. Well, it didn't take long before Darren Waller was dealt, and he's becoming a New York Giant. Now, if you look on Sport Track there, Darren Waller, he's sitting at about 11.1, 11.8, 12, 13, and 15 million as his cap hit until 2026 when he becomes a free agent in 2027. Now, I'm not too sure how I feel yet about the Raiders. I'll talk about this. I'll circle back to this a little bit later when we talk about the Jokobi Meyers news. But as we look at this for the Giants, Tara, how are we feeling about this for the New York Giants, given Daniel Jones a wide receiver, a big wide receiver that can play the slot? Are we feeling that for the New York Giants?
This was an excellent move for the Giants. Huge win for them. Obviously, Waller, when you compare the contract and look at the let's say the franchise tag cost that we have for, like, say, Evan Ingram right now, you're looking at that and saying, Waller is, fairly cost effective. This is not an overblown contract. He's still got some years left in him. Obviously, there's the injury concern there, but again, they still have Daniel Bellinger, who, filled in admirably last year. So if something goes sideways, they've still got that. But I think this was a great move for them. There's not a lot of receivers in the, free market or the free agent market that you can really invest in right now. You have to make a move via trade. Not a lot of huge options out there that aren't going to be massive hits to your cap. And this was a good move to kind of get that hybrid, like you were saying, somebody who you can take that Travis Kelce approach with and make him your number one target. And you've obviously got a lot of, smaller pieces in there that can fill and perform very well next year. Add in maybe a young receiver in the draft. And I think they're looking pretty good right now and should be poised for a repeat in the playoffs.
You mentioned that free agency for the wide receivers. What is still out there is Juju Smith-Schuster, Odell Beckham Jr., DJ Chark, Paris Campbell, Nicole Hardman, Darius Slayton, Jarvis Landry, Olamide Zacchaeus. Marvin Jones Jr. This is where we're going with these wide receivers. This is why it's important that you probably are better off trading for a wide receiver at this point, because outside of Odell Beckham Jr., and I still got my reservations about him, I'm not blown away by anyone to make a big difference. Now, we love DJ Chark on this show.
I like Chark, yeah.
And he could be that guy, but he's not that guy. He's not that alpha wide receiver, that alpha pass catcher, that guy who demands those targets. He's that field stretcher, and he's going to make his hay that way. But Major, another wide receiver who is available, but now he's visiting the Carolina Panthers, is former Minnesota Viking Adam Thielen. Can he be a difference maker there in Carolina, assuming the Panthers have a rookie quarterback lining up week 1 of the 2023 season?
No. I think he's a little bit past his prime. Like, I think it's a wrap. He will be a good streamer, tight end, receiver for a year, maybe two, showing all the other receivers how to be professional, what to do, all that good stuff. He's going to be a great coach for anybody they bring into that organization. But if we're thinking that he's going to be the Thielen of pass, I don't want to see all that extra stuff you're doing down there, Tera, but you can't convince me that he has any juice left in the tank. Like, he will give you a game or two. Don't get me wrong, he will have a couple 100-yard games, but it's not the same Thielen as he was, especially playing with who at quarterback we don't even know yet, right?
Tera, counterpoint.
Counterpoint is that his statistics from last year were on par with the last several years. The only thing that was the difference is that touchdowns were down. But again, that's very explainable when you look at the rise of Justin Jefferson. So, from that perspective, I think he still has it. I didn't see any kind of, nothing to me screamed drop off in his actual production on the field. It was only the touchdowns. So I think he's a perfect candidate to step into a situation where he can be a solid, stable veteran for a young quarterback to come in and be able to rely on. I'm not saying he's going to be like, I'm not saying he's going to be Justin Jefferson, but I think he can still be the same Adam Thielen.
You can't be the same Adam Thielen when you're always hurt now. Like, he's always an ankle, is always a knee, is always a something, is always something going on now. Like little nicks, he's never 100% anymore.
I think that might have been. We'll see what happens here the next season, right? We've seen players who've had off years based on their age come back, bounce back, have a good year. I like this. If this is the direction that Carolina is going in, they're not asking him to be a alpha wide receiver. They're asking him to be a solid wide receiver too, as far as fantasy is concerned, who's going to be probably a better flex option than not. And he's going to be that security blanket for a young quarterback, whether that's an Anthony Richardson, whether that's a CJ Stroud, whether that's a Bryce Young, right? You need to get that dependable target. And there's not very many more dependable wide receivers than Adam Thielen. He's not going to stretch the field, but he's going to make the quarterback's job easy. It's not going to be big down the field kind of stuff. It's going to be the stuff outside the numbers, what Adam Thielen's always he's done. He's not going to be able to stretch the field. Carolina, they're still going to need to find someone to do that. I don't think it's Terrace Marshall, and I don't think it's Tommy Tremble there. Sorry, Major. I know you're a big Tommy Tremble guy, but I still have yet to see him explode there for Carolina. They still need someone out there, especially after letting DJ Moore go.
Right. I mean, he's going, like you said, he's not the wide receiver one, but as we stand today, he would be the wide receiver one on that team.
He played 17 games last season.
I know, but he wasn't 100%. Like, he was always little ailments and stuff where he couldn't be 100%, like give you his full arsenal, I guess.
I think he was fine.
Okay. Well, his numbers wasn't fine then, so I'll try to help him out, but your
70 receptions, 700 yards, 6 touchdowns. I mean, that's fine. That's fine. That's a stable veteran that'll be good for a young quarterback.
The best part is if Juju Smith-Schuster did that, everyone would be praising him. Just saying. Now,
you're right. That's so terrible. Why do you have to bag Juju like that? Come on now.
You hate always.
This is an anti-Smith-Schuster show. I mean,
yeah.
At least in this corner of the show. Now, one move that I absolutely love right now, this legal tampering, is watching a team like the Eagles that were a powerhouse last year. You lose perhaps one of their best players to another powerhouse. Javon Hargrave signing with the San Francisco 49ers. Major, Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave. If you are Cam Akers, if you are, I don't even know anyone else, James Conner, if you're a running back in that NFC West, how do you run the ball?
No one's going to be able to run the ball on the 49ers. That's been the recipe for success since, the last 3, 4, or 5 years. They have this thing where the D-line is where they kind of start and end their team. Like that's the stars of their team, and you will not run against them. It's going to be hard to pass against them, and they're going to run the ball and run the timeout. So the 49ers have their blueprint and sticking to it, and they went out and got the best D lineman in free agency. So I'm totally happy about that, being a fan.
The rich just get richer there, and I guess you can do that when you don't have a expensive quarterback.
You're right.
Right now either.
Yeah, a quarterback.
No, we have 3. Thank you very much. Don't disrespect our quarterback.
It's not disrespect. They're just awful hurt right now. But you got Sam Darnold. There you go.
Hey, and Sam we trust there in San Francisco. But speaking of San Francisco and quarterbacks on the move, arguably the best available quarterback in this free agency. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but when Jimmy Garoppolo's name is mentioned amongst the top quarterbacks in any category, I have to believe that means the category is not very good. So I'm going to start with you, Major, here right off the get-go. Devontae Adams, stock up or stock down?
I'm going to say down. Jimmy has never been a quarterback to throw to the outside receivers. He's more of a tight end, running back, slot friendly quarterback. But I don't know. Adams is one of those guys who demand the ball. So, I'll say he'll have some stuff schemed up for him. So I'll say he'll probably have the same numbers he had this year. Unless Jimmy's streaky, like he can get hot and be great, or he can not get hot and be subpar. So we'll see. I'm just happy he's finally out of San Francisco. I've been calling for this since he got there. And shout out to I forgot her name, but she drew Jimmy G every day till he got traded, and it was like 400 something pictures of Jimmy G being drawn by this person. So shout out to her for doing that. And I think that's it, man. I want him to be successful out there because I have some shares of some players out there. So we'll see what Jimmy can do. And plus it's your team, Matt. Like you, my boy. That's your team. So I kind of root for him too. That's my dad's team. So I want them to be successful. But we got to give Derek Carr more respect. I see everyone talking about how this is a lateral move and how they didn't get better or worse. And I'm like, Derek Carr is a way better quarterback than Jimmy G, and people need to put respect on Derek Carr's name. I don't understand why we don't like Derek Carr.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir here, man. You know I banged that drum for Derek Carr. I've been banging that drum for 2-3 years. Here's the key thing, though. You cannot really put a good team out there, it seems, unless you're the Kansas City Chiefs, when you're so highly invested in the quarterback position, it seems, right? We're talking about these teams that are making moves. It's usually based on a quarterback-friendly deal, usually coming out of a rookie year deal that they actually hit on. Well, Jimmy G's deal with the Raiders, he had that signing bonus of 11.25. His 2023 salary is 11.25. 2024, 11.25. And then 2025, it goes up to 22.5. But here's the kicker. It's really essentially a one-year deal or a 2-year deal for him. So there's really no risk factor there for the Raiders. They can still go out there and they can still get themselves, if a Richardson, Strode, or Bryce Young drop to 7, they could still get themselves a quarterback. And Jimmy G is just that bridge quarterback, yet again, battling it out with a young rookie quarterback. And we know how that typically works out there for Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, Tara, when we look at this, and I know Major was going to be biased here, that's why I kind of flipped the script here a little bit on the question asking, does Jimmy Garoppolo have a similar cast in Las Vegas than what he had in, I don't know, say San Francisco, minus the George Kittle? Because when I wrote this question down, Darren Waller was still a Raider. So it kind of made a little bit of sense there. However, that's not the case. And I don't think the Raiders are done tweaking this offense.
I sure hope not. With Waller, I would say that it was similar-ish. I think Brandon Ayuk is a better overall receiver than Hunter Renfrow. So I think that the difference-wise, I don't think it would be that.
Wow.
No, but hey, now I'm realistic.
You guys talk about Hunter like he's the next coming of like.
No, she said Hunter Renfrow is a better route runner than Brandon Ayuk, but Ayuk is a better receiver.
I'm not a bias. Like, I don't know why Major tries to act like I'm biased. I'm like the least biased person here. He's so biased for all his 50 teams.
That shows I'm not.
No, yeah, exactly, Matt. Like you're situationally biased. Yeah, Matt, he's the best route runner, but the overall better receiver is Brandon Ayuk. But then you got Devontae Adams, which is, a better receiver than Deebo Samuel, so it kind of meshes out. So it's a similar cast, but the big difference here is it doesn't matter if it's a similar or was a similar cast with Waller. The coaching is drastically different. So I don't think you cannot expect a similar result here. Wish Jimmy G the best, but I mean, you're escaping Kyle Shanahan's system where you were set up to succeed. We'll see how this goes with Josh McDaniels. Hopefully he knows Jimmy G. Hopefully he can manage the game. I think what's going to happen here is that they're just going to lean more on the run. So stock slightly down for Devontae Adams, not a bailout on Devontae Adams because it's Devontae Adams as a whole. But really, this just benefits Josh Jacobs for me. He thrived last year in this system, and I think they're just going to continue to do the exact same thing with him, maybe a little bit more.
But didn't Jimmy G have his best years under Josh McDaniels?
Again, system, and how much of that was also with Belichick. So I don't know. I've yet to see Josh McDaniels in his solo self produce a viable system for a quarterback. We saw Derek Carr genuinely struggle with it. So hey, if Jimmy's got it, maybe this will change my opinion of Josh McDaniels. But if not, then I think that pretty much solidifies it.
Yeah.
Well, I think an interesting thing to this whole dynamic here when it comes to the Raiders free agency is this trade. We were talking about the Darren Waller, just kind of backing up here a little bit. This trade comes about 10 days after Darren Waller's wedding to Las Vegas Aces guard Kelsey Plum. Now, the timing, this is by Vic Tafar there, by the way. He's kind of plugged in there to the Raiders. He basically said, the timing is only interesting because Josh McDaniels accidentally leaked the news of the wedding to reporters at the Combine. Now, Waller, he was kind of upset with McDaniels when the Las Vegas Review-Journal posted a story announcing the wedding was scheduled later the week as the couple had not publicly announced their plans to get married. So TMZ, move over. Raiders are got you covered here. We I don't know why I just shared that, but it just kind of came across my timeline courtesy of Victor Fur there. So, yeah.
But to you, Matt, before you go any further, like, can you try to put some of this together with the Raiders? Like, when you get a new quarterback, you want to have like a tight end. That's like the safety net. You get rid of one of the best ones in the league. I don't think. Do they have the running back? Like his contract is not done. He's not happy yet.
Well, they tagged Josh Jacobs there. He's going to be making his 11.1 million or whatever, 10.1 million this season. So he'll be okay. He's not going to be happy that Darren Waller was let go. I can't imagine Devontae Adams is going to be too thrilled about this whole thing either. But when you look at the tight ends that are still available, I mean, they could bring back Foster Moreau, who filled in admirably when Darren Waller was injured, which he was more often than not the last couple seasons. Now, let's not forget this. Unlike the wide receiver market, you can make a play for a couple tight ends here. Dalton Schultz comes to mind. He's going to be a free agent. Mike Gesicki was never a fit in Miami. He could be a fit for another franchise. Hayden Hurst, he could be a serviceable. We saw him being serviceable in a third, fourth kind of receiving option role there in Cincinnati. And, of course, Irv Smith Jr. is available. Maybe he flourishes there in Las Vegas. I don't know. These are some of the tight ends available that we might hear some news on here when free agency officially kicks off on Wednesday. Now, we'll back this whole thing up here a little bit because we got a lot of tampering to get to because a lot of moves are getting done. But no team was perhaps busier off the get-go than the Denver Broncos. I mean, between them, I mean, there's all kinds of moves that were basically going on, but we'll come back to the Denver Broncos. I know you want to talk about Samaje Perine, but I want to go back to Ryan Poles and what he's been able to do. We talked about the trade that he made. But what about the moves to help Justin Fields that don't necessarily show up on the offensive side there, or at least not the sexy part of the offense? They went out there and they got themselves Nate Davis, the guard there from Tennessee. Huge move, protecting that inside. Then they went out there and got a couple difference makers there. According to PFF, the 4th and 5th ranked linebackers last season in TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. Dude, Tremaine Edmonds is 25 years old and has already played in the NFL for 5 years or 6 years or whatever number it is. It is absolutely crazy.
Right.
And that he's available in free agency. Yes, Chicago, they let Roquan Smith go for basically what was second round pick there last season is what they traded him for. But they weren't going to get him the same price they got these two linebackers. Then again, they basically spent $91.5 million on linebackers. But hey, if you've got the money, spend it. We saw Jacksonville do this last season. So before we move on, Tara, I'll give it to you here. Are we really loving Ryan Poles here and what he's been doing? Not only that trade there for getting rid of that first overall pick with DJ Moore, but these other moves that he's making.
Everything except that Chase Claypool move. Other than that, man, he's been on point.
Chase is all right.
Are these moves enough to make you forget about the Chase Claypool?
Major, would you give an early second for Chase Claypool in Dynasty right now?
Yes, I like Claypool.
You would not. You would not. Just
I like Claypool.
You
would not trade 202 for Chase Claypool.
No, probably like 228, 27, something like that. You know.
I need to get more leagues with
but now, I mean, Chase is he's a wide receiver 3 now, so I think he's going to thrive in that position.
But what I do know is the next topic here we're talking about here, he's one of Tera's guys, and he's one of Major's running backs here that catches a lot of balls. So is he running back or is he wide receiver? I don't know. Who knows? But Austin Eckler, he wants to get paid. He wants to get traded, and the Chargers have granted him permission to seek said trade. Now, if Austin Eckler does find a trade partner here for the Chargers, Tara, what is the best fit for Austin Eckler for 2023 and beyond?
I don't think it exists right now. I mean, prior to Miami re-signing literally everybody to a 1-year deal, I thought, or not just 1 year, but I thought that Miami would be an interesting landing spot for literally anybody for the running back position. And then, there's Buffalo as well that I know is always in the market for a running back. But again, I just don't like that pairing of him and James Cook. And then the other thing that I thought would be a dark horse, and I guess it was proven right by the signing, I thought that Detroit would be a nice dark horse landing spot for him, but that's been taken care of now. So no, I don't really like anywhere, especially from a fantasy perspective for him. So I would just prefer that they just they work it out, because I don't see a fantastic landing spot for him at this point.
I have 3 locations I think that he should go to, maybe. Like, it might work. Chicago being one, young quarterback, first year contract, or rookie contract. You can pay the running back a little bit. Nice check downs, safe player. I think that'll work out there in Chicago. Montgomery just left, so there's an opening there. Atlanta, another, it looked like they're going with Ritter out there. He probably won't win anything, but that'll be a good place for him to go to, like, try to get as much money as possible. And the third place, I would like maybe the Saints. Alvin Kamara still got some stuff going on there. The Saints he can plug right into that Alvin Kamara role and just kind of keep trucking. So those are the 3 locations I like for him.
You know what? I would have agreed with the Chicago Bears one, but I don't know if I like Austin Eckler playing in the cold all the time. I mean, I think that's got to be a bad thing. Atlanta, I don't hate as far as keeping himself a little bit healthy there. They got some other running backs, like Tyler Algier could take a little bit of that load off between the tackles, and I think that could help him, benefit him there a little bit. But we'll see how that all shakes out there. But I did mention that the Denver Broncos were making some moves too. They were probably one of the more aggressive teams off the get-go there. And they addressed that offensive line there. Ben Powers at guard from the Baltimore Ravens. Mike McGlinchey, who they're from the San Francisco 49ers, at tackle. Then they addressed the defensive line there with Zach Allen, one of the best pass rushers available in this free agent market. So how are we feeling? Let's talk about this offensive line here more than anything. Latavius Murray, Javonte Williams, maybe another running back who we'll talk about later. How does this look for them with this upgrade of the offensive line, Major?
Anytime you can upgrade your offensive line, the whole offense looks better. But for a running back, I would be happy. I don't know what their plans are for Murray long term, but and if they feel like Javonte is going to be ready next year, it usually takes a year for a player to kind of bounce back from that type of injury. So I think that's why they went and did what they did. We'll get into that, but yeah, anytime you upgrade your offensive line, I think that's like the blueprint since day one in football. Like, it all starts with the offensive line and kind of trickles down. So, they get more time to throw the ball, they get more time to run up, or they get more open holes. Everything works out. So I like what John Elway and those guys are doing out there.
Is it John Elway or is it Sean Payton? Because this is a very similar blueprint that Sean Payton brought to it with him to New Orleans. You build that center, you build that guard, especially when you have a smallish quarterback under center. You protect that inside, that interior, and you just spend it's not your money, right? I mean, that's basically what got the Saints in the position they're in now, is spending a lot of money. Denver's doing the same thing. I'm not going to say it's going to end the same way, but I'm just going to say Sean Payton don't care about no money, and he's going to go throw it out there, and then we'll be talking about this a little bit later. But, Tera, is this enough? What the Broncos are doing here with the offensive line, some of these other pieces that they're adding, is this enough to let Russ cook?
I mean, the important thing is they're trying. They're overpaying. Like, we know that, but we've seen before that when you're a clear, questionable destination, you gotta overpay sometimes.
But is Denver one of those destinations? I mean, you can smoke weed and go snow surfing, snowboard.
No, the city is fine. The city is fine. But when you watch what happened last year, even if you look at it and you say Sean Payton's a great coach, you still look at that and say, I don't know, man. I'm a little bit skeptical of where all this is heading with Russ, and if this is really something that is fixable. So yeah, I'm guessing that people are a little bit skittish, and you might have to do a little bit of convincing to help get them over to Denver.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, this is the right track. I'm still optimistic. I'm with you. I don't think that Javonte Williams is going to be ready. I don't think that. I'm very concerned about him. I'm not looking to invest in him from a fantasy perspective this year in redraft. So I expect them to do something else at the position, just because I don't feel like the first half is going to be very viable for him.
Well, they did do something, and we'll scroll down here a little bit further down the show sheet. They went out there and they signed Samaje P. Ryan. Now, keep in mind, legal tampering. We've seen this with Frank Gore. Frank Gore is like the poster child for legal tampering. Just because you're signing, air quote unquote, doesn't mean you're signing with said team. So keep that in mind as we head into the actual official free agency. But for the most part, I'd say it's about a 95% accuracy here. So, I mean, Tera, the signing of Samaje Perine, what does that mean then for Javonte Williams? Like you kind of hinted at that. We don't think that Javonte Williams is going to be 100% week number one, especially Latavius Murray still there. Now they signed Samaje Perine, who we know is a competent running back in his own right.
I mean, I was more hopeful that they'd be going out for someone like a Kareem Hunt, like a high level pass catcher. But I think maybe this tells us that, I mean, we saw juice from Perine last year. We saw, solid, pass catching ability. We know what he can do. So maybe they're looking at this and they're saying, all right, let's get us a stable, cheap veteran, bring him in. Maybe we're going to X out Latavius Murray, and maybe they're just going to invest in the draft because it is a deep class. So they can go out there and they can get themselves whatever they need, maybe like a high level pass catching back in the mid rounds. So it's okay. I can see where they're going, but I was hopeful that we'd see something bigger in terms of a signing.
Well, Major was hopeful that the Cincinnati Bengals would have stuck with Samaje Perine. So what does that mean for Joe Mixon and the Cincinnati Bengals, Major?
I think Joe, we got to figure out his legal situation with, out here with the gunplay and all that good stuff. And, his contract is a little inflated. And we all know that Cincinnati has some contracts coming up that they need to kind of figure that out. So I think he's on the chopping block still. But I did like Samaje out there. He showed, when Mixon was out last year, that he can actually play the game. I don't think we really got to see Samaje his whole career up until when Joe got hurt last year. So, and I think Samaje can catch. He's going to be a good third down back out there at least. But I think he can be a 3-down back there until Javonte can get well. But I don't know what's going on with Mixon's situation. I know they don't have any running backs on the roster currently, except for Travion Williams and Chris Evans, maybe. So that's, maybe they might be looking towards the draft, or maybe they might want to keep Joe. But I just don't see them doing that with the amount of money they have to pay with, the quarterback and all those receivers coming up with contracts next year or the year after.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't really been a market for running back. Then again, it hasn't really been a market for wide receivers here. But one of the running backs that did find a new home is Rashad Penny there, who is now out of Seattle, which opens things completely open for Kenneth Walker. By the way, Travis Homer also signed or is signing with the Chicago Bears, a little bit of insurance policy, special teamer there in Chicago. But Rashad Penny going to the Eagles, which means Miles Sanders is probably not going to be there. So is this a good move for Penny, or is this a great move for Kenneth Gainwell? Tera.
Yeah, I feel that was specifically targeted at me for a reason, maybe. It's both. I'm going to handle it the exact same way that I handled Penny.
Nice
and
play,
Kenneth
Major.
Walker.
Nice play.
Penny and Kenneth Walker last year. Penny will be excellent. And first of all, this is a committee. This is not going to be the Rashad Penny show. This is a committee. It's just a good committee because they're so aggressively run heavy. But I'm going to hey, as long as the ADP doesn't shoot up drastically, Penny is going to be fine. And you can get your little discount with Kenneth Gainwell like you did with Kenneth Walker, and just wait for the inevitable. I'm so sorry, Rashad Penny. Wishing you the best, but you have to kind of look at this in reality. And yeah, I think honestly, this isn't the worst thing for Kenneth Gainwell. Obviously, they were not going to go with him as a lead back. I like this better than them going out and drafting somebody who more than likely will compete for touches the entire season.
So where's that leave Miles Sanders? Where is he at now?
Oh, he's gone. Yeah, no. And he already said his goodbye on Twitter. I think he said thank you, Philadelphia, for the memories and whatnot. So yeah, he's going to be somewhere. That's going to be an interesting one to see.
So Major, Penny, Gainwell, who's the lead back there in Philadelphia?
I say it's Penny. Like, he showed that he is a viable running back in his league when he's healthy. The thing has always been the health with him. And again, like Gainwell is just, I hate to say it, being a smaller back myself, you just can't rely, in the NFL with these smaller running backs on 3 downs. These guys, these D linemen are running like 4 threes now, and they're like 300 pounds running 4 threes. Like, it's crazy. So the amount of pound and that sounds crazy. The amount of the amount of work that they have to do, I don't know how to say it, but yeah, he's it'll be a lot for him to do, and I think he's better as a switch hitter and a damn, that sounds bad too. And a
You always do this.
but why is
the worst part is
all the football terms all about like sexual innuendos? Like, what's that about?
Why do you emphasize it though? No.
Because I hear it when I'm saying it, I'm like, damn it. I'm trying to.
You know what? I apologize to anyone listening to this. I promise you that Major played college football at the College of the Canyons. It's a real thing. It's really thing. He knows running backs. It's just he can't apparently talk about them hitting a hole without going, oh. Now
you just gotta watch what you say around these streets, man.
He just thinks it's a very sexy position.
It is a sexy position, but that's a good one. Actually, you get one of those. That might be your first one, but yeah.
So go from one sexy position to the other. We're going to talk about tight ends here. And Jono Smith traded from the New England Patriots, an uber athletic hybrid type tight end, going to Atlanta, where they have another uber talented hybrid tight end, except one of them, Coach Arthur Smith, actually likes. Tera. Yeah, there's a silence there, a really awkward silence as we pivot into that, because why is Atlanta bringing in Jono Smith when they already have Kyle Pitts? Tera, make sense of this.
I mean, you make sense of it in the fact that they are possibly looking at running more 2 tight end sets. I mean, they used technically, now I can't remember specifically when Kyle Pitts was active and the level of which they used secondary tight ends, but once he was gone, they used I think they rotated through 3, honestly, solid 2, but maybe 3. And so maybe they felt positively about it and want to continue that, but maybe upgrade it with someone that they feel like can put out a little bit more offensive production. Jonnu Smith is, neither Jonnu Smith or Hunter Henry really worked out together in New England. And you can argue that wasn't, particularly their fault. So I can see where, Arthur Smith can get similar production that he was able to previously get out of Jonnu Smith. So this could be a good thing and not really a threat. I don't think it's a threat to Kyle Pitts, but maybe it's a direction that they're saying they would prefer to run with 2 tight ends versus making another significant investment at wide receiver.
Yeah, I think Pitts will play more slot, and I think Jonnu played a more traditional role of the tight end, like the more blocking tight end. You got a really young quarterback there, and I think you want to, give him an opportunity to be more successful with. You have a stud wide receiver, and then you have a pretty, I don't know. Hopefully they're thinking this way. I think Kyle Pitts is not really a tight end. He's just a big guy that's a receiver. So we might have to look at it that way, kind of like a LeBron James playing like point guard type of thing. You know what I mean? So he might be a positionless player. He's just fast and athletic, and he's just really big. So why not just make him a slot or outside receiver? Why not try something crazy? You're going to lose anyway, so just go for it.
Dang.
Well,
like they're going to win. Come on
now. I don't like that Desmond Ridder slander.
I'm a Ridder fan. That's my guy. I have him in all my leagues, but I hope he keeps that position out there. But like, he's young, so we'll see.
Well, speaking of young receivers, I guess, Garrett Wilson is to Devontae Adams as Elijah Moore is to Randall Cobb. But is Alan Lazard still just Alan Lazard? We're bringing him to New York. This has all got to mean that we're going to get Aaron Rodgers there eventually. We've got Alan Lazard going to the Jets for about $11-12 million per season. So maybe a little bit of an overpay. Aaron Rodgers going, hey, take care of my guy. I'm heading over there. Well, don't worry. Just take care of my guy. How are we feeling about the Jets being the new Packers of the East?
Oh, me? Yeah, that was an overpay in 4 years. I mean, I know it's not 4 years, 4 years, but that's still
Right.
quite a and the guarantee. Yeah, that was some dedication right there. He's going. He's 100% going, and he's either announcing it tomorrow on Pat
Pat
McAfee's
McAfee,
show.
1 p.m. Eastern.
I
Or
believe that's a
he's gonna
sweet
go in
idea.
there and not announce it and jerk some more chains until he gets a couple more Packers players signed. So
So Tara, here's a question for you. Do you think that the Jets are like going out and saying like, "Hey, I'm gonna grab all your guys and have them here to try to entice you to come," or you think Aaron Rodgers is already kind of in talks and like, "Hey, come and get my guys so we can, let's do it that way."
the latter. They're
Okay.
already in talks, committed, and he's just saying, I need you to get me these things. I literally think that it's all that it is. It's just his whatever they call it when like singers go to like the Grammys and stuff, and you got to have these things in your rooms, like this
Oh,
listed
the
and
writer.
the
Yeah,
writer. Yeah, I think
yeah.
this is just his writer. I think this is it. So they're just doing that for him. I think it's a done deal. But hey,
You know
whatever.
what?
You know what? This is how he wants to roll. Y'all go ahead and do that. More power to you.
I've changed my mind. This is not the whole Ace Ventura interrogation scene. This is now Rocket Raccoon in Guardians of the Galaxy saying he needs this from Gamora, he needs this from Groot, and he needs the man's prosthetic leg from Quill. Alan Lazard is the prosthetic leg. He has no need. Aaron Rodgers is basically just asking for Alan Lazard just for shits and giggles right now. He does not need Alan. You've got Garrett Wilson. You got Elijah Moore. You could have had Braxton Berrios. You could have had Corey Davis come back, but
You
like,
just
you know
named all like small receivers. You like Lazard is a 6'5", like fast guy with hands. He's been injured and stuff like that, but he's
come
he
again.
had a market.
Did you just mention
Like,
Alan Lazard is fast
yeah,
in the same
not
sentence?
fast, not fast, but
faster
everything
enough.
else, but everything else was accurate.
Well,
Everything else was
he's
accurate.
a 4'5" guy, isn't he?
He's
No,
not fast.
okay, not bad.
He's not a burner, but I mean, he's a solid contested catcher. He's been a excellent red zone target for Aaron Rodgers. So this is not like a random thing. Like it makes sense. The connection has been there. When he's been healthy and a lead target for Aaron Rodgers, that it's been good. So this is it's not a waste. It was just a massive overpay, wildly unnecessary. Wildly.
So what does the Jets send back in that deal? Is that like is
Crossing my
Wilson-
fingers that
is
it's
Wilson
Elijah
in it?
Moore.
Elijah
Oh,
Moore, like who's going?
Please
You better
let it
hope
be
it's
Elijah
something
Moore.
there. But it'd be hilarious if it's not, because I
It'll
can't.
be
I just
like a
can't see
couple
that
picks.
happening. But for those who are wondering, I mean, Trey Wingle's been there from the get-go. He said this has been basically done since, like Terry said, since Friday. This has already been agreed upon. I mean, the structure of the deal has already been kind of figured out. We know Aaron Rodgers, like he said, maybe he's going to announce it tomorrow. Maybe not. The one thing I know is he's not going to retire, because then he'd have to share his enshrinement with J.J. Watt, with Tom Brady. And there's no way Aaron Rodgers is going to share his enshrinement with Tom Brady. It's not going to
Just
happen.
don't put that on Aaron Rodgers. That's a great point you bring up, but every player thinks about that. That's not an Aaron Rodgers thing. That's any player thing.
Well, one player that we don't probably have to worry about that is David Montgomery ever making it to the Hall of Fame. Maybe he does, but you know where we do know he's going? He's going from Chicago to Detroit. Then that means, Major, what now for Jamal Williams? What are we going to do with Jamal? Where's Jamal Williams going?
I like him in Buffalo, actually. I like him in Buffalo. I think that'd be a good fit. He's proven that he can play in cold weather. He's a goal line back at this point of his career. I think he will be a good, like, I don't know if he'd be the starter there, but I think he'll, be a good rotational player there. So, yeah, let's give him to the Bills.
I like that one because he does have a nice little YouTube clip there, post-game interview, talking about Frozen and playing in the snow. So we know he likes that.
That's funny.
Now, Tara, what does this mean now for David Montgomery? What does this mean for DeAndre Swift in Detroit? Because Dan Campbell, apparently he don't like him all that much. At least that's the impression I'm getting from the outside.
Not at all. They've made that very clear. This signing here, if they had done, David Montgomery, whatever you feel about his production and lack of, he's like an average back. I know he's not like an excessively high level talented back, but he's a 3-down back. And bringing in a 3-down back versus bringing in someone who is like a specific goal line back, like maybe like a Damian Harris, like this screams to me like we straight up just don't want you here. We don't believe in you. We don't like you. So no, I don't think that this is not good for him.
But I think they tried though. I think they tried everything they could with him, and I think they just need to part ways at this point. Yeah, it's like a relationship. You work hard at it, and it just doesn't work. Both people grow apart. Like sometimes it's okay to split. It's not always a bad thing.
I don't think they tried, honestly. Last year was kind of like, I mean, to the point where the only way DeAndre Swift could score, if you got to the 10, he knew, man, I better get in that end zone right now because there is zero way that they are giving me a goal line carry. If I fall at the 1, I'm out. Right. Yeah, no, this is just hopefully he doesn't have to sit there and play second fiddle to David Montgomery, but they might make him do that unless they can find another a viable trade partner, which would be wonderful. But yeah, unfortunately, this is actually, I mean, this is a good landing spot for David Montgomery. There weren't a lot of good landing spot options for David Montgomery, and this one really creating itself bodes well for him. So I think this is a good thing for him. If you held on to David Montgomery too long in Dynasty like I did, we got bailed out. Congratulations. Yeah. Jamal Williams out. I will throw out an interesting landing spot for him. New Orleans. They're finding ways to pay for stuff as they always do. He would be an interesting one to put down there with Alvin Kamara, knowing that they have to have somebody that can be capable of filling a role while he's gone, and then somebody who can kind of fall in and play a role when he's back. So that's an interesting location, in my opinion.
Very reminiscent of when Latavius Murray there had some success down in New Orleans, similar with the Jamal Williams possibly stepping into that role. Now, a couple other little moves here. Jawan Taylor, he is going to the Chiefs. We know the Chiefs are probably down both their tackles. Andrew Wiley there, he's signed elsewhere. Orlando Brown is still a free agent. He's not going to go back to the Chiefs would be my guess. Case Keenum going down to Houston there. I mean, who knows? Davis Mills, maybe Bryce Young, maybe CJ Stroud. We'll see what happens there in Houston with that number 2 overall pick. A couple players leaving the secondary there in Cincinnati. Von Bell, he is going to Carolina. Jesse Bates, he's taking his show down to the Dirty South there to Atlanta and get the Dirty Bird on. And Josh Oliver going to Minnesota. Tara, is Irv Smith no longer a thing? They basically gave Josh Oliver 3 years, $21 million. And Irv Smith, he's like Millhouse there in the rain or playing Frisbee by himself.
Yeah, I mean, he's a free agent. There's no need for them to bring him back. So yeah, he's no longer a thing there. But hey, Irv Smith trucers, we never die, never let go. It can still happen. What? Hang in there.
How?
Maybe we will rise up.
I'm going to be a Raider so much just because that's Matt's team, and then like Irv is your guy. That would be like a perfect match for you guys to like have some great discord on this show.
You know what? I don't necessarily hate that. I really don't. I think that could work out. So we'll talk about that hopefully here next week's show if it does come to fruition. Now, Patrick Peterson, he's coming to Pittsburgh because Cam Sutton, he's going to Detroit. Detroit's doing some kind of big moves there on that secondary for the most part. Sam Darnold is now the starting quarterback week number 1 right now, penciled in San Francisco, as Trey Lance and Brock Purdy are still not ready to go. But who knows? Maybe Trey Lance gets moved, Major. What does it mean for Lance? What does it mean for Purdy that Sam Darnold's going to be there?
Nothing at all. I think it's just going to be a competitive quarterback room. I think they're all going to be there doing their thing. There's no way you get rid of Trey Lance after you traded your whole future away for him. And then you got lucky and you hit Brock. So it's like, I don't really get why they did. I thought Brock and Trey was going to go at it in camp, but like Tara said, maybe they're not ready yet. Maybe they know something we don't know. Maybe the injury is going to take a little bit longer. And at this point in his career, I think that Darnold is just a streamer at this point. He's one of those transition guys at this point, and we'll see what happens. But him being a starter quarterback, I highly doubt it unless the injuries are just so bad.
let's talk about some of these quarterbacks here. Sam Darnold, he's going to San Francisco. Andy Dalton, he's now replacing Sam Darnold in Carolina. Tyler Heineke, he's now going to Atlanta. These guys, Heineke, Dalton, they're getting some decent money as a backup quarterback here, probably backing up, young, inexperienced quarterbacks there, which means Jameis Winston still couldn't find a suitor, and he's stuck in New Orleans yet again with Derek Carr making about $8 million per season. Now, Jakobi Meyers. Now, I've been holding off on this one. Tera, we know what this means already for Darren Waller. He's gone. What does this mean for Hunter Renfrow?
We saw Hunter Renfrow kind of fall into, Mac Hollins kind of surpassed him last year, and we saw Renfrow. Yeah, it was. Hollins was.
No, I'm with you. I'm just surprised that Tera is saying anything bad about Hunter.
It's not bad to say that somebody surpassed you. Life happens. Somebody, I'm sure somebody surpassed me today. It's okay, right?
No one ever does that. What do you mean? It's Tera effing time. I don't know.
So, hey, this is not a knock to Hunter Renfrow. So, yeah, I do think that Jakobi Meyers will operate as the number 2 there. And I think it probably doesn't make a huge difference for Renfrow. I think he's kind of going to operate the same way he did last season, maybe a little bit better because he was dealing with health issues that did hurt him last year. So this is fine. Now that Waller's gone, this is fine for Jakobi Meyers. I would have liked to see him somewhere where he didn't have to compete with a superstar, give him a chance to, get out there with a quarterback other than Mac Jones and show off. But hey, he got his money. This will do.
I actually like it because I feel like he has familiarity with the offense already. I think Jimmy was gone, but it's the plug and play in New England when it comes to that quarterback thing there. But I think he's going to have the one-on-one matchup all the time now because he's with a superstar receiver. But I want to hear Matt's, because I know this is your guy. You've been screaming his name for 2-3 years now, and now he's on your team. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel the Raiders still need someone who can stretch the field. Devontae Adams is fine in what he does. Jakobi Meyers is not going to stretch the field. He's never going to be confused as a guy who's going to be a burner. We know what he is. He is a slot guy. He's a target guy. The problem is Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller both play a very similar type role. Now, Waller can stretch the seams a little bit as a tight end, creating those mismatches. But I made that tweet earlier, and the reason I made that tweet is $11.1 million is what Darren Waller was making, and that's an investment that the Raiders were probably not too high on, considering what the return of investment has been the last couple seasons. They paid him basically in good faith because he had a big season. He was well deserving of that payday. Now, Hunter Renfrow is an interesting one because he signed a 2-year contract extension with the Raiders worth about $31.7 million. Now, Renfrow received $21 million guaranteed of the salary, and of that whole $14.5 million there. If on the roster on the 3rd day of the 2023 league calendar, which happens to be Wednesday, which happens to be the first day of the official free agency frenzy kicking off, then Renfrow will have his salary for 2023 fully guaranteed, and the final 2 years of this contract are voided for salary cap purposes. So we could realistically see Hunter Renfrow traded on the first day of free agency, that 3rd day of the league calendar, to avoid having to guarantee his 2023 salary.
Like it.
And we know the Raiders will do it because they did this with Derek Carr already. So if you're looking at this, when I made that tweet saying and or Renfrow and Waller in references, this is why. This is a very realistic possibility, which means they're taking 1 step forward while taking 2 steps back, in my opinion, in trying to get this offense going.
Real quick question for you. Do you think, so let's say Hunter stays, do you think he can play outside receiver, or you think he's just a slot receiver?
I think he can play outside. Do I think he's going to be any good? Probably not. I mean,
it'll be a wide receiver 3. Like, I think,
I think they can kick him out there. I think they can line him and Meyers. They can take turns running the outside. But I think Hunter Renfrow is more effective out of the slot. And putting him to the outside is a waste of what he brings to the table. You can't run the same routes on the outside as you can run on the inside. You don't have those two-way goes. You can't go inside and outside. You're basically limited when you're that boundary wide receiver. So I don't like him being a boundary receiver. I don't think he's got that in him. That being said, I'd love to see the Raiders mix guys up and even move Devontae Adams in the slot from time to time because he's going to create mismatches down there because of how athletic and how good he is. So I'm going to be interested what the Raiders do here moving forward, more likely through the draft because, like we said, we look at this free agency. We talked about those names earlier on the top of the show. There's nothing there. It's like, oh, you know what? He'd be a good fit for this team. Typically, burners get paid. I mean, get good money. Now, if the Raiders were able to bring a DJ Chark in and then let Renfrow go, then I could see where this direction was coming from because now you got a guy who could stretch the field opposite Devontae Adams, and you got Jakobi Meyers working the underneath.
Isn't it ironic? Isn't it ironic that the Raiders just if you're fast, you're on the Raiders, and now look at the receiver core, and it's like everyone's like, I don't even think no one's running a 4-4.
That being said, we'll probably get McCole Hardman. Let's be honest. That's probably what's going to happen.
I kind of like that. I kind of like
his boy.
That's my guy. Yeah, I kind of like that one.
So as we wrap up today's show here, we've hit just over an hour. Jimmy Ward, he's signing back with the Houston Texans, signing back with D'Amico Ryans, which I wouldn't be surprised if we see more defensive players defect from San Francisco to join Ryans down the way there a little bit. And we also had Zadarius Smith. He basically told the Vikings he wants out. The Vikings said, whatever. Well, we don't care anymore. We're going to sign Marcus Davenport to go bookend the other side opposite of Danielle Hunter. So something to keep an eye on there. And again, the roundup here at the quarterback position, Jakobi Meyers, Baker Mayfield, Teddy Bridgewater, Gardner Minshew, Marcus Mariota still available. Major of those quarterbacks, who's the first one to kind of sign when free agency kicks off?
Is Baker? Question mark? Yeah. So I'm assuming it's going to be. I think everything. I think people are going to wait and see what happens with this Lamar thing. I see some teams make positioning themselves to get into this Lamar bidding war. So I think teams are going to wait to see how that falls to see where everyone else is going to go. But maybe Baker looked all right to me towards the end of the year with the Rams. Again, maybe I don't know if he's a starting quarterback, but he's a good fill-in when you need one. But yeah, that's a tough question. None of these quarterbacks to me are worthy of anything. I think there's going to be a sour market for them.
All right, Tara, we talked about these wide receivers, Juju, Odell Beckham Jr., DJ Chark. Any of these wide receivers say, hey, you know what? I would take him. Where's a good fit for one of these guys?
I mean, we know that Aaron Rodgers wants Odell in New York, apparently. So I'll take the easy way out and say that one. But right, Odell in Dallas.
Elijah Moore getting traded back to Green Bay, and the Jets signed Odell Beckham Jr. Tara, that's Tara's fantasy working out there. Now, major running backs. We talked about Jamal Williams being that next guy, maybe in Buffalo. But what about Miles Sanders? Devin Singletary's a free agent still. Donta Foreman, Carolina still hasn't officially re-signed him. Kareem Hunt, Damian Harris, Jarrett McKinnon. Who's the first of these guys to sign? Who's got the most value?
I'm going to go with Damian Harris. He's still a young guy. He's a proven running back. He runs hard. He has opportunity. I think New England kind of stifled his potential. You have to do a certain thing a certain way out there, and I think his game's a little more broad than what he has shown, and he's still young again. So I'm going to go with Damian. I don't know where to, but I like him out of those running backs you mentioned. Miles Sanders, he's really good as well. Foreman, he's shown that he's viable. But I really like Kareem Hunt. I hope he gets the opportunity to go somewhere where he can kind of show, his running back one skills that he once had. Hopefully, I think he paid his dues, I guess. I don't know what people think about that, but hopefully he gets the opportunity to kind of get his career back,
Well, there you have it. Major likes everybody, not just one guy. Can't go with that.
On brand.
Right on brand. Right on brand. We wouldn't have it any other way,
Yeah,
which
right.
is a really weird show day because Tera's taking shots at Hunter Renfrow and Major is backing Damian Harris. I mean, what is
That is
going
true.
on this week? This is like bizarro here. Tera, now give me some love for tight ends. Let's finish this show off because let's finish it the most bizarre way possible because we all know how much you love the tight end position and how you value it in fantasy. Dalton Schultz, Mike Gesicki, Hayden Hurst, Irv Smith Jr., Foster Moreau. Who has the most value and who signs first?
I am we'll continue on this same trend, and I will say somebody that I didn't support at all last year, and say Mike Gesicki gets out of Miami, finds himself a nice home.
And you want a nice home? Hey, tune in every week to the ViperCast. This is family here. We want you to be part of our family, part of our home. And the best way you can do that, head to fantasypoints.com and get that subscription today because we are brought to you by the Fantasy Points Media Group. With that all being said, this has been the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast, episode 174. Tune in each and every week and make sure you're checking out Behind the Grind. Probably the best show that nobody knows is out there. Hear from your favorite analysts, their stories, and we have a little bit of contractually obligated football talk that we throw in there from time to time. So check that show out, and we will see you next week. Take care.